All right, so picture this. You're stuck in traffic, right? And it hits you, what if the reason it's even moving is because of the guy in the next car?
Okay.
Sounds crazy.
Yeah, a little.
But that's Harvey Liss. He's this engineer, spent a year optimizing, like, traffic lights for the city of Irvine.
Wow.
But get this, that's small potatoes compared to his other mission, getting a veteran cemetery built in Orange County. And let me tell you, this thing has more twists and turns than a season finale.
It's wild how something like building a cemetery seems local, right? But then it spirals out. You've got state politics, land development, even environmental concerns. It's a case study in how these decisions get made, who gets a say.
And you're in the right place if you're interested in that kind of stuff. How these local battles actually go down, that's why we're doing a deep dive on this whole cemetery saga. We've got news articles about a lawsuit Liss is involved in. Plus, we've got his own words from like a website about healthy aging and an opinion piece.
Right, right.
So first things first, who is this Harvey Liss character?
Well, one thing to remember with any of these sources, everything comes with a perspective, right? Even those news reports, they choose what to emphasize, what to leave out.
Totally. Got to keep those critical thinking hats on. So from what I've gathered, Liss is a longtime Irvine resident, been there over 40 years, civil engineer by trade, worked on developing a part of the city called Woodbridge. Oh, and he's been deeply involved in local politics, not just the traffic light thing.
And that's important context, right? Because it shows he's not just some disgruntled resident shaking his fist. This is someone who understands how local government works, how to navigate the system, get things done.
Yeah.
Which makes his current frustration with his cemetery project even more intriguing.
Oh, he is not happy. He keeps saying this whole fight hasn't actually been going on for a decade, like some articles claim, more like since 2017.
Okay.
But still, that's a long time to be battling it out. He lays out his side of the story very meticulously. Starts with getting the city council on board to build the cemetery at the Great Park, a big deal. They even secured a $10 million grant.
And this is where it starts to get really interesting, because that grant wasn't just local funds, it was from the federal VA. So suddenly you've got national interests all mixed in with this seemingly local decision.
Exactly. It's not just an Irvine issue anymore. But then, hold on to your hats, because plot twist. The council shifts, new mayor comes in, and suddenly they're all about a completely different location for the cemetery. And to make matters worse, they reject a whopping $30 million from the state to build at that original spot.
Oh, wow.
Liss is completely convinced this is all because of a developer, 5 Point, who he claims wants that land for themselves. He even points to campaign contributions, saying 5 Point funded the new mayor's campaign to the tune of $800,000.
And you can tell he's presenting a carefully constructed argument. Dates, names, dollar amounts. He's using specifics to build his case, which you see a lot in these local political battles.
Oh, absolutely. And he doesn't stop there. He goes on to describe this whole back and forth, like they pass an ordinance to rezone the land, Liss gets a referendum on the ballot to overturn it, and it wins by a landslide.
Wow.
Then he launches an initiative to make that original cemetery site completely off limits to developers.
This guy does not give up.
This guy is like a dog with a bone.
It really shows the power of a single citizen who understands the levers of local government, isn't afraid to pull them. You kind of have to admire the dedication, even if you're not sure you agree with the methods.
Right.
Yeah.
But here's the kicker. Despite all of that, the council is still not budging. Liss wants the cemetery open by Veterans Day 2024, which, well, let's just say that's not happening.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, what is really going on here? And that brings us to this lawsuit, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Because now Harvey's not just fighting for a cemetery, he's fighting against one.
It does seem a little, I don't know.
Counterintuitive.
Yeah. Like, wait, I thought you wanted this.
Yeah.
But when you look closer at his reasoning, it's clear that for Liss, it's about more than just getting a cemetery built. It's about the where and the how. He's challenging the whole process.
Okay, so the article we have, it lays it out like this. The county's like, okay, enough with the Irvine drama, right? We're putting the cemetery in Anaheim. They found this spot, Gypsum Canyon. Construction's supposed to start in 2026. But Liss is suing to stop them.
And this is where things take another turn. It's like, okay, what are Liss's real motivations here? Is it truly about honoring veterans in the best way possible? Or has this become more about him getting the outcome he wants, even if it means delaying a project that a lot of veterans actually support?
Well, he claims it's both.
Yeah.
He argues that Irvine is just like way more fitting because it used to be home to El Toro, the Marine Corps Air Station.
Right.
Historically, there's a strong connection there. But then he goes a step further and says, Gypsum Canyon, environmentally sensitive, shouldn't be developed at all.
And that's a clever tactic, right?
Right.
Because it brings in a whole other group of people who might be sympathetic. It's not just about veterans, not even just local politics anymore. Now it's about the environment, land use,
Yeah.
these bigger issues.
And of course, the mayor of Anaheim is not mincing words. She's pushing back hard,
I'll bet.
saying they have support, veteran groups, other cities. Everyone's on board. Veterans have waited long enough. Let's just get this built. She even calls Liss's environmental concerns frivolous.
It's that classic tension in urban planning, you know?
Yeah.
How do you balance what a community as a whole wants with the needs of specific groups, especially when those visions are, like, totally clashing? Who gets to decide what's best?
It's a good question, especially because, let's be honest, most people would not go to these lengths for something they believed in. Which brings me to those other sources we have from Liss himself, specifically his website.
Oh, right.
It's called Live to a Healthy 100, and it might give us some insight into his, mindset.
Because one thing's for sure about Harvey Liss. This is a man who commits, whether it's traffic lights or cemeteries. He's all in.
100%. So on his website, he's all about exercise, avoiding processed food, really taking a proactive approach to health and aging.
Which, if we think back to this cemetery battle, it does kind of track, right? It shows someone who thinks long-term, someone who sees the value in persistence, fighting for what he believes in even when it seems impossible. He's not giving up easily.
And that really comes through in everything he says about the cemetery. He truly believes that building it in Irvine, that spot, is the best way to honor veterans. And he's willing to fight tooth and nail, even if it means going up against, developers, elected officials, the whole 9 yards.
Makes you wonder, is this dedication an asset or a liability here?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And to even start to answer it, I think we got to look at Liss's arguments and the counter-arguments he's facing a little closer. So we've got Harvey Liss, right? Engineer, traffic light guru, health nut, and cemetery crusader. But is he, a hero? Or has this whole thing gone too far?
It's a tough one. You've got this incredibly persistent guy going up against not just, the powers that be, but what some people might even see is, what most people want. Where do you land on that? Do you admire that tenacity, or are you like, dude, enough is enough, just build the cemetery?
Because we got to admit, his arguments about Irvine, they kind of make sense. Having it near where El Toro Air Station was, there's that history there,
Right.
It's not just some random spot on a map. It's about, honoring their legacy in a place that actually means something.
Totally.
Yeah.
But that's what makes these decisions so complex. Ideal is different for everyone,
Right.
Some veterans, maybe being near where they live now or where it's easy for their family to visit, that matters more than the historical connection. It's about balancing all these different things.
And then there's the whole environmental angle he throws in. Is he really that worried about Gypsum Canyon, or is that just a way to, stall things?
This is where looking at his other stuff, like that health website, is kind of telling. You see this pattern of him thinking long-term about the bigger picture, the impact of decisions. Doesn't mean he's right about Gypsum Canyon, but it's probably not just some random tactic, He seems to really believe it.
So where does that leave us? Harvey Liss, persistent, strategic, maybe a little stubborn, sure. But is he right?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Even if this cemetery gets built in Anaheim, which, let's be real, it probably will, Liss's actions, they've brought up some really important points. How much transparency is there in local government? How much, say, DO developers have? And when people disagree about what's best for a community, who gets to decide?
It's way bigger than just one cemetery now. This whole thing, it's about who gets a voice, whose vision actually matters.
Exactly. And it kind of makes you think, what would it take for you to get this involved in your community? What issue do you care about that much? Enough to, dedicate years to it, even when it seems impossible?
That's a good question to end on. Because whether you agree with Harvey Liss or not, he's proof that one person can make a difference. They can shake things up, make people listen, maybe even change things. One traffic light, one cemetery at a time.